The next thing that we need to learn in object-oriented programming is constructors. Every class has its own constructor. Even if you don't define one, it still has a constructor. This is why the class that we created earlier was working, because even if you don't specify a constructor, Visual Studio is automatically creating a default empty constructor for you. The constructor has the name of your class. It doesn't have any data type, and it may take or may not take arguments. This is up to you. It depends on the type of class that you're creating and what kind of initial values you need. So for example, here we have a class human. The class has height and weight, and whenever we create a human object, we want them to have height and weight. We don't want to have any humans that don't have height or weight. So we give these arguments to the constructor. After we give the arguments to the constructor, we have to assign them to the properties that we have. But if you notice here, they have the exact same naming. This has to change. We're going to use capital letters for our properties and small first letters for the arguments of our constructor. Now keep in mind that this is not the final way in which you are going to do it. We need to learn a few more things before I show you the final way, the proper way in which you need to create objects. So please bear with me for a couple of lectures. So capital letters, small letters. When we create the constructor, we are going to say new human. So we are going to say new human of, for example, height 180 and weight 70. This is how we are going to create it. When we do this, the height 180 will be passed here, and it will be assigned to height that has capital letter. So from here, it comes down here to here, and it goes back to this height. This is how it all looks. We have our class, we have its constructor, we have an instance of the class created with initial values given to the human class, and we use the height value of the human to print it on the console. So let's see this in action. I'm just going to use our point class, and since there's no point in creating a new class, I'm just going to say public point. So I'm creating the constructor, no data type, it has the name of the class, open brackets, int x, integer y. So I want my point class to have both x and y defined at the time it was created. So I want to say big X equals to small x, big Y equals to small y, and we need to rename this to capital X and Y. When we go back to our class, we can see that now we have an error, and it says that there is no arguments given that correspond to the required formal parameter x. If we delete and open the brackets again, we can see here that int x and int y are required. So let's just say 5, 3. We no longer need to define them outside of the class. To access them, we need to use the capital ones. And if we run the class, it's still going to work. Now, keep in mind that just like with normal methods, we can have multiple different constructors. So if you want to have the empty constructor, we can say public point and just leave it like that. So now we have two ways of creating a new point. As you can see here, we have one of two. The first doesn't require any arguments, and the second requires an x and y. So point 2 will work the same old way.